All right, here we go. Yo, everybody. Here's another episode of the Mind Body Marathon. Take two, take two. Um, on today's episode, we're going to talk about mitochondrial health, which is continuing down the same kind of lane that we've been doing with vitamins, supplements, just kind of lifestyle things. And on today's episode, we got Dr. Jared Bugaj
Hello.
and Dr. Matt
Hello.
Pisanelli. And we're going to be chatting about different factors that affect mitochondrial health, basically, whether it be stuff to avoid or stuff to add into your lifestyle or diet. These are going to be pretty big things to help improve performance. But first, let's kind of chat about what is the mitochondria.
All right. So mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So in every cell of our body, all the billions and trillions of cells, basically this is the oven that produces the heat for our body. So mitochondria kind of look like potato bugs if you look at it microscopically, and they produce ATP, which is the energy that makes us live. So
yeah, and what's crazy is in any given cell, there's literally thousands of these.
yes.
Yeah.
In our old school biology, like we tend to think of like it just being one of the many organelles, but no, there's many mitochondria per cell.
Yes. And nerve cells actually have the most mitochondria per cellular unit. So nerve cells, neurons, they have up to 2 million mitochondria per cell. Skeletal muscle is in the near like 1 to 3,000 range.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
And heart cardiomyocytes up to 10,000.
Yeah, I was going to say heart is the second.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's wild. So yeah, basically they're just in there just cramming out ATP and just kind of ramping things up energetically. And one of the theories of aging, probably the most common theories of aging is basically a slowing down of the mitochondria.
Yeah.
And so this conversation today is basically centered around that. What are some factors we can do to improve the health of this critical organelle in our body?
Yes. So exercise being one of those factors.
Well,
And
I think we can sort of break it down into three things
Okay.
first. Let's kind of start there. So the
Okay.
first would be lifestyle, and then the second would be dietary, and then third would be environmental.
Yep.
And let's kind of hit the lifestyle side, which is the exercise.
Yeah. So aerobic exercise, and the big buzzword of the day is this zone 2 training. The light aerobic training is a very important stimulus for mitochondrial proliferation. So I won't go crazy on the pathway, but basically the zone 2 energy cycle requires fat oxidation, and the mitochondria is very important in that the metabolism of the fats at those lower levels of aerobic activity, not burning carbohydrates. And if you're utilizing that pathway and if you're utilizing that constantly, then that's just an adaptation to that level, that stimulus, that exercise. And so if you're consistently doing aerobic activity, then your body is going to reproduce and proliferate those mitochondria. It's called mitochondrial biogenesis. So
yeah, one of the other strongest stimulus for that is HIIT training.
now, that too.
Basically, I was reading research and they were saying that like even short bursts of 20 seconds of intense effort can it basically elevates norepinephrine or adrenaline, and that is one of the strongest signals to double mitochondriogenesis. So basically, it helps to really improve it. So anytime you get a big burst of adrenaline relative to your HIIT workout, then you're going to get a increase in biogenesis. So we're kind of talking about two different things. So if you think of like a runner and just an average week, you're going to have your easy days and you're going to have your long run, and then you're going to have a workout. Well, the workout is going to have some component of HIIT training. You're going to do some sort of interval. And what that is doing, that's kind of ramping up a lot of the different hormones in the body. And those hormones then stimulate a much higher production of mitochondria. If you just literally ran easy all day long, all the time, well, then you're not getting that same robust stimulation. you are getting some, as Jared mentioned, because you would be doing a lot of like zone 2 work, which is basically, beta oxidation or fat oxidation, and that will stimulate mitochondria, but you do need a variety. And I think that's pretty clear in the research, is that variety is key.
I think in that research article, because I read it
Cool.
as well, I think it did the article that you said was burpees. Did they give the example of burpees?
That was one of the forms. Yeah.
Yeah. It was literally do 7 sets of 20 or burpees until you start to breathe hard. And that's all it takes to get that proliferation. But not only does it increase the number of mitochondria in the cell, it increases the efficiency of it.
Yeah. And even the size.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like it makes it better in every way fathomable. It makes it bigger in size, which can produce more ATP. It makes more of them, so that drastically increases the ATP. But then it makes it even more efficient of, basically burning the fat and producing it. So like in every aspect, basically zone 2 or short intervals of high intensity will do that.
Well, that would make sense too, because with higher levels of norepinephrine, then free fatty acids are increased in the bloodstream, and then so the metabolism of that would necessitate more mitochondria to use it. So yeah, that makes sense. I think I can it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So basically, if you're trying to stave off some of the effects of aging, it's just not simple enough to just walk around the neighborhood or just do your same 5-mile run at the same pace every day. Or you do definitely want to increase your intensity. You want to have some components. It doesn't have to be every single session, because there is a point of diminished returns with this, where you do want to have some variety of pacing, like I said, a variety of effort. But if a couple times a week, you definitely get your heart rate up massively with doing some burpees, or jumping jacks, or like jump rope or something like that, or even like stair climbing on a treadmill or something like that. Basically, something that's really going to spike your heart rate and be very challenging over a short duration. That is going to be hugely beneficial for this.
Well, in talking about aging, I think we should explain like why it changes aging. So like think of, if you remember the old school like Atari game like Centipede, as you ate those things, your tail grew longer. So every time that you have a cell replicate, there's a DNA part of it that has a tail. And I think it's somewhere between like 25 or 27 tails. And each time it replicates, it loses one like little pellet of that tail. And then eventually when it gets small enough, it just can't replicate anymore. So mitochondria keep that tail from falling off as quickly. So the more times that you replicate that, then the cells will die and turn over, which then leads to aging. So if you can have a mitochondria, it basically makes replication more efficient. And so not every single time that you do it, maybe it's every other time. So now you can get extra years of life, due to cellularly, due to that. So that's why it's the anti-aging portion, of the cell itself.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Did not know that.
Yeah. But then what we're kind of also talking about is the more mitochondria, the more, the more energy you have, which makes you a better athlete. You have more energy. You can produce more energy. That then makes you run farther, run faster.
Yeah. And
so there's
heal
2
up
aspects
quicker.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Power the enzymes to heal the body once the exercise stimulus has been given and completed.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we also didn't really talk about how like exercise plays a huge role with immune cells and that component in reducing inflammation, and that process ultimately helps to improve respiration of the cell, and improving respiration of the cell then also stimulates mitochondria. So the body is just one big Swiss watch with a ton of cogs. So one system genuinely affects another. And so that's why it's important when we have these episodes and we sort of highlight a lot of this stuff. We're not just speaking in isolation, everything's sort of in concert. And anything you can do to just heavily increase the oxygen content of the area, that's going to be very beneficial. So that kind of like also talks about like simple things like, breath work, doing like Wim Hof breath or like box breathing or something like that, where you are forcing a lot of oxygen into the system. And that hyperperfusion of oxygen will definitely stimulate much better production of ATP within the mitochondria. And the mitochondria like that, so they get bigger and they grow.
Okay.
Yeah, some research showed that basically meditation was 50% as effective as zone 2 training. So you literally don't
Really?
even have to exercise, but just literally deep breathing, calming the mind. Stress is a huge, component of mitochondrial health as well.
Yeah, if you look at it from
Oh.
certain variables, it'll improve it.
Mhm.
Also, nitric
That's neat.
oxide will do the same thing. Like, so nitric
Enhan-
oxide dumping and all that, like that exercise.
Enhancing blood flow for sure.
Yeah. Any other exercise ideas? Or do you want to move on to diet?
Temperature training.
Oh, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
That's
More.
environmental.
Okay,
We'll
Okay.
get
talk
into
about
that.
that.
Yeah, because that's huge. So let's head into the diet side of things.
Okay.
So what are some things that you guys know that increase mitochondrial production from a diet standpoint or supplemental?
Yeah. So definitely like CoQ10.
Yeah.
So coenzyme Q10, which is one of the electron transport chain carriers, specifically that enzyme. You can find it in the supplement aisle, but in things like red meat, you can find the CoQ10, B vitamins, as well. The electron transport chain requires vehicles to bring it electrons. So specifically, vitamin B2 and B3 with riboflavin and niacin. So one of the
Riboflavin. You just said that so.
riboflavin. Yes. So you may have heard of NAD plus or NADH. So the derivative of vitamin B3 is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and along with the aging process, we lose levels of NAD, and so
Yeah.
that is another thing that we have to consider. So keeping up those B vitamins so that the body can synthesize its own electron transport carriers, as well as iron as well is important in the whole cycle, is in the mitochondria, with keeping the electron transport chain active. So those would be some dietary things that I have found.
For supplements. From a food side of things,
Yeah.
a lot of like greens. So green peppers are
Exactly.
super,
Anything
super
that's got a
high
lot
in
of
that.
Ooh.
B vitamins.
Brussels sprouts are really good. I mean, you have your typical spinach and kale and stuff like that, but more of
Popeye.
Popeye. Yeah, Popeye had probably the best mitochondria ever.
Yeah, that dude, his arm was like loaded with it.
Yeah, it's just one punch of mitochondria.
His bicep was one giant mitochondria.
Yeah, and I think it's I don't know necessarily from a supplement like which one is better like from an absorption, but the rule of thumb is always try to get your intake of nutrients naturally
For sure.
through food. So
Yeah.
as Jared had said, meat is another good example, red meat in particular.
Yeah, I think like vitamin C is another one important component in there as well. Like we said, that we're just one giant Swiss watch, essentially. So we kind of know vitamin C has a lot of important components in the body, but it definitely is involved in fatty acid synthesis, and that plays a role. But I think the one that I wanted to talk about was sulforaphane, which is really interesting, and I was taking that for a while actually. So that's in broccoli sprouts. So basically, that's why like sprouts are like awesome for you. But like sulforaphane, there's actually like supplements on the market right now with that. And the one I was taking was Brock, BROQ, and it was a French company. I don't think there was any at the time I was taking it. There was no American companies that isolated sulforaphane. But man, this is just phenomenal in terms of producing energy for the brain. And it got a lot of its early research with autism and improving the function of autistic individuals, which is how I heard about it. And I definitely noticed a lot of great mental clarity, and it's really, really healthy for protecting the genes within the cell. It's basically really good at like being an intracellular antioxidant, and it is found naturally in foods, and so specifically broccoli sprouts. So a lot of these supplements will isolate it and then just take crazy heavy doses of that, and it is pretty effective.
Is that similar to the like isothiocyanate Is that anything similar?
Have no idea.
Sulforaphane? Okay. I had never heard of such a
Yeah,
thing.
sulforaphane.
Sulforaphane.
Yeah, its origin is broccoli sprouts.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a fun
I'm
one to
gonna
look into.
I'm gonna have to get some broccoli sprouts.
Yeah, but it is one of the strongest intracellular, if not the strongest intracellular antioxidant.
Whoa.
So,
Better than blueberries?
well, blueberries is definitely up there, right? So blueberries, pomegranates, so those are going to have a lot of the biophenols that are going to be efficient in protecting the cell as well. And I guess ultimately what we're really talking about is just anything that's antioxidative,
Yeah.
right? So, any food that's going to naturally take the principle of absorbing free radicals in the body and protecting the body cells, fruits and good healthy fruits and veggies and things like that. Good healthy sources of certain meats are going to do the same thing as well. But yeah, I mean, I think like certain polyphenols are going to be very beneficial in the body. Cocoa, chocolate is another really good one.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, cacao.
Cacao.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually took some of that the other day. It was really good in my coffee.
It specifically does increase mitochondrial proteins, a couple studies say. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Let's move on to environmental because that's probably the one that is most interesting. So, I guess what we're saying with dietary is just basically just
Eat healthy.
eat what
Yeah.
you normally do, right? And, don't, let's kind of just review the dietary side of it. Like, stay away from processed foods.
Yep.
Even if they have added nutrients in it, it's not great. It's not really absorbed in the body.
Stay away from polyunsaturated fats. That was a big one.
Polyunsaturated fat's nice. Yeah, like if you take a box of cereal that has, maybe 100% of vitamin B12 in it, and then you take blueberries, which also would have B12 in it. Well, obviously the blueberries, you're going to absorb a much higher portion of that. Even if the box of cereal had per serving more actual vitamin B12, you're better off still taking in the natural product. So just don't eat processed foods. It's just a smart thing to do. Healthy fruits and veggies. Obviously, try to focus on being organic, and stay away from terrible oils. So make sure you're eating just organic, like olive oil, avocado oil, just stuff like that. Not just staying away from like some of the seed oils.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to lifestyle.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Obviously heat and cold exposure, probably one of the better ways to do it. So with cold exposure, we did a whole episode on sauna and cold plunging and all that. And one of the benefits of that is you are turning white fat, which is kind of the superficial fat in the body.
The fat that you want to lose.
Yeah, the fat that you want to lose. And that, if you do consistent cold exposure, that will eventually turn into brown fat. Why does it turn into brown fat?
Yeah, because we need to produce heat, and our heat is produced by metabolism. And if the mitochondria is where we do the metabolism, then it has to be the brown fat. It's brown because if you look at it under a microscope, there's a higher density
There we
of
go.
the mitochondria in there.
That's it. So it literally looks different. So if you have white fat, it's just like blah. It's not doing anything. It's not effective. It's not playing any sort of strategic role in the organism at all. It's just there for extra calories if need be. But it in a daily function, it just does nothing but dump very terrible hormones into the body. So brown fat is actually laden with mitochondria, as Jared said, and it is actively playing a huge role in overall production of energy. And absolutely in a very fit individual that has a low percentage of body weight, quote unquote, it's basically the fat that is superficial on their body will be brown fat. So anyways, cold exposure will increase white fat into brown fat by solidifying the fat and then turning it more turning over the cells more into mitochondrial rich cells.
Okay. And when we shiver, that shivering process is our body's way of generating heat. And so the shivering is the muscle actually contracting. And when it contracts, you need energy to actually release the tone of the muscle. And so that's where the ATP needs to be produced. And then here we go back to the mitochondria. So, yeah, thought I'd
Isn't it interesting that these guys basically at some point, most people think it was just like, not most people, but most like biologists think it was a bacteria essentially
Yeah, I've heard this.
that
Yes.
just somehow made it into our cells, and it's just a fully functioning like crazy organism to produce energy, and somehow got amalgamated into the cell.
Mm.
Did
Yeah,
you
it's pretty crazy, actually.
did you know that you inherit your density and number of mitochondria from your mother?
Yeah, and did you know that the epigenetic modifier on the effectiveness of the mitochondria is actually still from the father?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. So so you
So there
get
is
your
some
number.
component. So basically,
Okay.
like you get the mito. So if you think about it, like the the mom's egg
Uh-huh.
is what has the organelles. So the mom's egg has the mitochondria in it. Okay.
Yeah.
But then the sperm comes in and then will tell the mitochondria to be like really active or just kind of somewhat active. So if an individual is very active at the time of conception, like the father is very active at the time of conception, then essentially what will happen is there's just sending like crazy high intensity like sperm that will
Oh,
activate the
wow.
mitochondria more.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's
That,
pretty phenomenal.
that's
So
cool.
So that's how those Kenyans do
yeah. So
it.
there's still some connection, right? So like obviously the mom produces the actual mitochondria, and that sort of dictates like are they going to be like more like type 1, type 2, like sprinter power type, or are they going to more distance type, aerobic or anaerobic? That kind of plays a role, but the intensity of what that mitochondria does actually is big time shapen by the state of the father when
Oh, okay.
at the time of conception. So there's about, I think there was definitely a couple research articles I read through with Rhonda Patrick that was alluding to that.
Okay. I think I've heard of that in a more conceptual base, but that makes sense that
Yeah.
that's the application.
So what are some other lifestyle things we can do to stimulate bacteria or
Overall,
mitochondria? I mean,
so kind of the opposite of trying to stimulate, but trying to refrain from it degrading is just being healthy and boosting your immune system so you don't get sick. Some
Yeah.
new research out shows that viruses will actually attack the mitochondria of the cell as opposed to other things. So that's why beforehand, as you said, like nerves have such a high density of millions that, and we've always had this assumption that when a virus comes in and embeds itself into the nerve, well, that's just because there's so much density of
Mhm.
mitochondria. So basically, what it does, let's say, was it 36 ATP per in the Krebs
Yep.
cycle, it lowers that to like 32, and so it just makes it basically
Yeah.
inefficient. And
Oh.
so the more times that you get the flu, the more times that you get these viruses, it lessens it. And once you have it, it's very, very, very difficult.
Hmm.
They're starting to do like crazy high doses of CoQ10 and other stuff to help try and bring it up, but it is like a permanent thing. So somebody who's just like,
Always getting sick kind of thing.
always get sick, like they,
Which kind
it
of
just
makes sense
hurts
because
them.
if you conceptually think about it, like you grow up with somebody and they're always getting sick, you're just like, yeah, that's not a healthy person.
Yeah.
It's just like
Mhm.
it's a confluence of factors, and even in an adult population, if you smoke or vape or you just eat terrible and you just kind of have like binge kind of lifestyles, like, yeah, not great. Like
Mhm.
binging alcohol, oh God, it's horrible for mitochondria. Just because of that heavy oxidative stress from that and the neurological demand of dealing with the high inflammatory levels. So, just definitely some lifestyle factors to stay away from.
Mhm.
Yeah.
With heat exposure, that's really interesting because one of the mechanisms that heat exposure, because it works on a completely different front from the cold exposure. With heat exposure, what you're trying to do is you're trying to stimulate the proteins that work within the mitochondria, and they're stimulated by the heat shock proteins. So basically, whenever you shock your body into thinking it's going to fry to death, then what it does is that creates this really robust genetic response for the heat shock proteins, which is a quote unquote epigenetic modifier that stimulates certain parts of the cell to become hardier, essentially. And so one of the reactions it does in the mitochondria is it just repairs intra organelle proteins. And so basically it helps turn over the mitochondria to being more efficient and more functional. So it just kind of cleans it up essentially.
So it's like it acts like a repair mechanism.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because like when you have that heavy heat exposure, the internal organelles are just like, we got to clean up our act and become more efficient, because this is like really alarming how hot it is, kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Yeah. Heat, and off of the heat, sunlight being
yeah,
a stimulator for mitochondrial health, and particularly that on the red light spectrum. With an infrared sauna that's similar to that red light it's infrared, so it's near the red light spectrum, and the specific wavelength, I believe it's like 600 to 830 nanometers or something like that, but that goes to stimulate a specific enzyme within the mitochondria.
see, that's awesome because the cold laser that we use at the clinic is, and most cold lasers are at 680 nanometers, which is a certain wavelength that will kind of climb through the body and get right into the mitochondria. It also kind of makes sense why like animals will just lay out on rocks to just get energy. Just an old lizard just laying out on the beach. It does feel good. If you're like, at lunch, you go for a walk in the nice summer day and it just stimulates you. It 100% gives you energy.
I feel way better like on vacation, just laying out
Mm-hmm.
there. It's like I'm a plant. I'm just absorbing energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and you get the sunlight through your eyes, and so that stimulates your retinal cells, which a lot of research goes to show that by indirect or direct sunlight, that regulates your dopamine pathway and your arousal and your sleep state too, which then good sleep, that's when our bodies recover and heal. And if we're not getting good sleep, then our mitochondrial health isn't going to be on point, or it's not going to be as good as it could be, right?
All right. Any final kind of points on mitochondrial health? Basically, all of the things that you kind of know you should do and you might not do, it's all kind of related to improving mitochondrial health. So, just eating well, living well, some of the fad things of like some of the dietary fads or lifestyle fads like cold exposure, heat exposure, fasting. These are all mechanisms to try to improve a lot of these things. Fasting kind of works in the same way, where if you withhold food from the body for long periods of time, you will go in and actively tear down old dysfunctional parts of the organelles and parts of the cells. And then so that way you can rebuild to newer ones. And so that kind of cleaning up effect, sort of spring cleaning of the body in the cell is a very robust reaction as well.
Yeah. Sounds good. That's awesome. Sulforaphane. I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
I've never heard of it, but
I took it for a couple of years. Naomi still takes it.
Okay.
It's expensive though. I'm just going to say, like, if you look into it, it's
All right.
expensive, but the research is pretty profound on it. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to another great episode of the Mind Body Marathon. And we hope you enjoyed this one. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you. Mitochondria.
Dr. Leo here. Be sure to check out my new book, Faster Without Fail, Your Guide to Overcoming Injuries and Running Faster Than Ever. It is now available on Amazon. You could read reviews on the Amazon. You can check out what other people have said about it. But basically, if you want to revolutionize your running form and better understand how to stay injury-free within the sport, this is your guide. Feel free to reach out and let us know what you think of the book. I would love to hear your feedback. But again, please check it out on Amazon. Faster Without Fail. Appreciate it. Dr. Leo here. If you want to catch me in another setting, be sure to check out my YouTube page, Running Rehab, where you will find exercises on how to stay healthy with running, how to improve your running form, and a bunch of other tips and tricks on how to get over common injuries.